Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's daily digital Devo. I'm excited to be with you, even though I'm not actually with you. I'm in Colorado visiting my parents. They live in Estes Park, and they've lived there for 20 years. And so I'm going up to visit with them, hopefully encourage them. We lost my brother Doug earlier in beginning of May due to a tragic motorcycle accident. And so I need to get out there. We need to get out there. Time is short. We're reminded that we have time that we need to spend with family. And that's important. It's important to do. It may not be the most important thing in the world. It's not, but it's very at the very top of the list. And so we want to get out there and enjoy their company for a little while. I understand that there's not a lot that's open in Estes Park right now due to the coronavirus, and I guess some of that going on. So a lot of that is shut down. I'm not sure if we're going to actually be able to get into Rocky Mountain National Park, but that's not really the focus. Our focus is to see my parents, encourage them, and see my brother Doug's wife, who was widowed in May, and see if we can see Michelle. So we're hoping to be able to do all of that while we're out there in Colorado. Um, you know, when it comes to following Jesus, a lot of times we make excuses. Do you ever make excuses for things in life? Sometimes there are reasons why things don't work. Other times there are excuses for why they don't work. And I have forever echoing in my head the voice of my high school line coach, Bob Sixel. And Bob was a successful basketball coach. He coached the school of Palmer. He coached their basketball team. No, they went to state playoffs many years ago, and he ended up coaching basketball at North Loop, Scotia, where I went to high school, which is no longer anymore. I think it's called Central Valley, and it's one of those consolidated from several communities now. But Bob was also our line coach, and he would say this, because we'd make excuses. Oh, I missed this block, I missed that block. And I have forever going through my head Bob Sixel's voice saying, excuses are for losers. Excuses are for losers. And you know what? Jesus actually has a similar perspective as Bob Sixel, my high school line coach, about excuses. And we find in the book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 57 to 62, some excuses for why people can't follow Jesus. And maybe you'll identify with some of these. I know that I have at various times in my life. So be watching for yourself and your excuses as we walk through these verses. As they're walking along the road, a man, identified as Matthew by a teacher of the law, said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus replied, Foxes have dens, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. This man has kind of been following Jesus, sort of, hanging back in the crowd, and now this man blurts out, I will follow you wherever you go. He's ready to follow Jesus. Well, maybe not. Are you willing to follow Jesus, even if it means that you're homeless? Apparently, this man can't let go of his comfort. It doesn't matter where you're from. Most of us try to make our lives more comfortable. Rich or poor, that's often our goal. I mean, who doesn't want an easy life? And so Jesus pushes back. Foxes have dens, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And what happens to this guy? How does he respond? With silence. He doesn't even answer Jesus. We never hear from him again. He stops right there in the middle of the road, and Jesus keeps on walking. Jesus doesn't want to hear you say that you will follow him wherever he goes. He wants you to actually follow him, right? Not just say you're going to, but actually follow him. See, Jesus is not only a leader, he is a servant. He came not to be served, but to serve. And he's so much of a servant, he allowed himself to be crucified. He died on a cross for your sin and for my sin. Jesus was a servant to the end. And so when you come become a follower of Jesus, that means that you must actually follow him and learn to serve like him, even if it means giving up your comfort. As Kyle Idleman says, I don't care how you position it, a cross just isn't comfortable. How much do you think God cares about your comfort? He doesn't care about your comfort at all. That's not even on his list of things to do. He doesn't care about your comfort at all. He's more concerned with your faith, with your courage, with your character, than with your personal comfort. In fact, I would argue this, that God regularly pushes us out of our comfort zones in order to do what he wants us to do. And he does that so that we will rely on him and lean on him and be close to him and follow him. The word follow literally means to walk the same road as. And Jesus is calling you to walk the same road as him, the road that is uncomfortable, the road that leads to being a servant, the road that leads to the cross. And this guy says he's willing to follow Jesus wherever. But he doesn't really mean that, does he? Nope. No, he does not. This guy is not willing to follow Jesus wherever, because wherever means anywhere. Are you willing to go anywhere to follow Jesus? Will you go with Jesus into your home? Will you go with Jesus into your vehicle? Will you go with Jesus into your workplace and into your family and into relationships with the unloved and the unlovables? Will you follow him into grace, into forgiveness, into showing love to your neighbor? Because wherever means anywhere. And then there's following Jesus whenever. Luke 9:59. Jesus said to another man, Matthew says he's a disciple, to follow me. But he replied, Lord, first let me go bury my father. Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. The first guy volunteers. I'll follow you wherever you go. This time, Jesus is the one who initiates the conversation. He calls the guy out. He's a man. Matthew calls him a disciple, a learner, follower of Jesus. He knows Jesus, committed to Jesus, devoted to Jesus, but maybe not fully devoted to Jesus. Now, why do we say that? Aren't we being a little bit hard on this guy? He just wants to go to his dad's funeral. I mean, come on. Surely there's nothing wrong with that. The real question is, why is Jesus being so hard on him? I'm not being hard on him. These are the recorded words of Jesus. So Jesus is being hard on him. And the short answer is Jesus is not being hard on this guy. See, we got to back up and make sure we get some of the cultural context here. Funerals were normally held the day the person died. They got everybody together. They went out. They buried the person. That's just how it worked. So it's likely that this guy's father isn't dead yet. Now, maybe he's sick. Maybe he's sick and he's at home, and maybe this guy's just waiting around home till dear old dad eventually dies and gives him his inheritance. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. Maybe he is hanging around until dad dies so that he can take care of mom, and then he can't follow Jesus because guess what? Now I have to take care of mom. And then some other excuse comes up. And another. And another. Because it's always easier to say you're going to do something in the future. Isn't it? Isn't that easier to say, someday I am going to start reading my Bible every day. Someday I'm going to keep a list of a prayer list at home, and I'm going to pray. Someday I'm going to quit smoking. Someday I'm going to lose weight. So I'm planning to do it. It's just in the future. And it's always easier to say you're going to do something in the future, but maybe you just never get around to doing it. So at some point in the future, I plan on following Jesus, but right now, not so much. There's always time for that, right? And yet the writer of Hebrews quotes from Psalm 95, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the rebellion. So maybe the real issue is that you're rebelling against God. You don't want to go his direction. You want to go your own direction. You feel something in your heart, but you're not willing to really listen to it to the point that you obey. But today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did when you were rebelling. Today, if you hear his voice, follow him. Don't delay. Don't wait, because one day it will be too late and Jesus will be too far away and you'll regret not running after him right now, today. Wherever means anywhere. Whenever means right now. And then there's following Jesus into whatever. Still another said, I'll follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replied, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God. Meatloaf sings his classic song, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. What is it that he won't do? Well, that's a very good question. What is it that you won't do? That's another good question. I don't do windows or laundry. Actually, I do my own laundry, and my wife takes care of our children's laundry. I don't do diapers, though. I don't do diapers anymore. I have reached my quota. I changed my last poopy diaper several years ago, and if and when we have grandkids, I will gladly take that child to his daddy to be changed, because I am done with diaper duty. I will have no shame. What won't you do when it comes to following Jesus? I think that's a good question. The third guy pipes up. You see, I'll follow you, Lord, but let me say goodbye to my family. Sounds an awful lot like the second guy. And Jesus has made it clear that our allegiance must be to him above any other relationship, which is why I said that earlier about the family relationships. Family relationships are very important, but they're not top of the list because number one is our relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And here's the thing. Jesus doesn't want to be just one of many. He wants to be your one and only. Jesus doesn't want to be one of many. He wants to be your one and only. He wants you to follow him above anything and everything in life. Let me ask you this question, and just ask it a little bit different way. What needs to be cut out of your life so that you can follow Jesus? What is hindering you from following him that needs to be cut out of your life? The one thing we're most reluctant to give up for Jesus is the one thing that has the most potential to become a substitute for him. So where do you run when life gets hard? Do you run to the donut shop? Do you run to get a pack of cigarettes? To get a bottle of booze? Do you run to that unhealthy relationship? Do you watch your favorite guilty pleasure TV show or get lost in sports, or maybe something a little darker like hopping on your phone and accessing a pornography site or playing that video game, whatever? As Kyle Idleman writes, many fans of Jesus say to him, I will follow. Anything and everything I have, I give to you. But Jesus points to what you're hiding behind your back and says, what about that? So Jesus asks us anywhere. He wants us to go right now, and he asks us to follow him with everything. After all, Jesus says this, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. Let's get started. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I look forward to getting back from Colorado in the next several days. It'll be the week of before August 2nd. I kind of keep track of my weeks by Sundays. And so the last Tuesday of the month is when we're hopefully going to be driving home from Colorado. We'll see what the Lord has in mind with all of that. And until then, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Bye now.